You got into a relationship and it was fantastic at first. The energy was really high. You guys were really connected. The sex was great at first. But now it's either a train that is crashing or it's already crashed and the relationship has ended and you're left holding some kind of bag that you don't know what to do with or what that bag is. I need you to stay with me on this one because what I'm about to show you is going to change how you see that relationship. And more importantly, it's going to start to calm that anxiety you've been feeling. Because right now, you've got this loop going on in your head, thinking about her, replaying things, trying to understand what happened, and you don't have an answer yet. But my friend, you're about to. And here's the part that might hit you. That connection that you've been calling chemistry, there's a very real chance that it wasn't chemistry. It was a trauma bond. Before you push back on that, because I know some people are going to say, no, this was the real one. This was it. This was different. Stay with me. Because by the end of this, you're going to know exactly which one it was, a trauma bond or real chemistry that just went south. So if you've ever been in a relationship where it started off incredible, you felt chosen, wanted, seen, and then something shifted, and now months later, you're still thinking about her. You're still feeling it. You're trying to make sense of it. I'm going to show you why that's happening, and more importantly, what you're actually attached to, because it's probably not what you think it is. Let's talk about real chemistry, and then we'll talk about trauma bonding. Let's start here, because if you miss this, you'll keep chasing the wrong thing. Real chemistry is not chaos. If you are experiencing chaos and confusion in that relationship, it probably wasn't real chemistry. Real chemistry is not confusion. It's not emotional highs and lows. Real chemistry is consistent and it's safe and it's mutual and it's communicative, where you guys actually can communicate your feelings. It feels good and it also feels calm. There's no guessing. There's no sitting there wondering, where do I stand? You just know. Here's the key. Real chemistry builds over time. It doesn't spike. It doesn't have this big rocket takeoff right in the beginning and then crash, right? And then spike again. Real chemistry starts off very calmly and it just grows. It grows slowly. It's balanced the entire time. You both are not so much into each other that the rest of the world doesn't exist. Now, what you felt didn't feel like that, did it? This is where trauma bonding comes in. Because trauma bonding feels stronger than real chemistry. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Let me say this again. It feels stronger than the real thing. Trauma bonding is not love. Unfortunately, it feels like it, but it's not. It's conditioning. It's where your brain gets wired to associate one person with both pain and relief. In other words, a trauma bond is when that person, the person you're with, they do a push-pull thing. They'll pull away and leave you all anxious. Then they come back and you feel better. And then they pull away again. And then you're down again. And they do this in a very intermittent way. And the cycle looks like this. You pull in, connection, closeness, validation. Then they pull away without a reason. There's distance, there's coldness, there's confusion. And right when you're about to detach, they come back. Yes, they can actually sense that energy when you are about to pull away and say, I think I need to go in a different direction. And at that moment, right there, that's where the hook sets. What it feels like. This is why you can't let it go. Because it feels like intensity, obsession, craving. It's literally an addiction through intermittent feeding of the cocaine, if you will, dopamine. You're thinking about her constantly and trying to understand her. It's because she's given you this intermittent love, if you want to call it that, very unreliably, very inconsistently, and then she pulls it away. It is the highest form of addiction on the planet. You're trying to fix it, trying to get it back to what it was. And when she pulls away, you feel it in your body. That drop, that tightness, that anxiety. But when she comes back, sudden relief. like everything just reset, like you can breathe again. And your brain goes, there it is. That's what I want. That's what we had. And then she does it again. She does it because she doesn't like intimacy. She can't handle it. She doesn't have capacity for it. This is because of her past, and she carries that into her adulthood. It's so weird that for you, as someone who really wants to connect and is empathetic and mindful and thoughtful and willing to make changes, that's normal for you. For them, that's dangerous. Intimacy with a person like this, which is generally what we call an avoidant, which is there's a fearful avoidant, there's a dismissive avoidant, or a narcissist, they can't handle that intimacy because if they do, if they become vulnerable, like real intimacy where there's commitment involved, they're afraid that you're going to see the shame inside of them. And so what do? They have to do things that affect you because they can't handle their own shame. So they handle it in very irrational ways. My personal story, I went through this myself. my, my last girlfriend, so much fun. It was so confusing though, how she really wanted to be with me, but she would pull these stunts. And we had great dynamics in many ways, but at this validation level and at this intimacy level and this creating a tighter relationship level, she just seemed to like get there and then poof, pull away. And then I would start to pull away. She'd come back and grab me again and pull me back. And that cycle became so addictive that my head started to go just in cycles. I lost who I was. So I want to slow this down for a second because this is where most guys miss it. Looking back, the red flags were there in my relationship, my last one, which I was really into. I really wanted a life partner out of this one. Those red flags were there early. They weren't subtle. They were clear. And for you, a person like this, they threw up those red flags early. We just choose to ignore them because the feeling of having somebody that's connected like that, we can just like push it away. And that's the part. That's where the pattern starts. Because we start to just let a little bit slide, then a little bit more, then a little bit more. And once that becomes that addiction where they pull away and you're waiting for that breadcrumb, that's the trauma bond. You probably saw the red flags in yours. There were things that just didn't sit right, things that made you pause, but you didn't act on them. I didn't either. Why you don't act on these things? And this is important because if you don't understand this, you'll repeat it. My friend, my anxious friend, if you don't start to turn around and look at yourself, you will repeat these patterns because there's this need for this person. And eventually you're going to find a replacement for them to fulfill those needs. And the easiest person is the same type of person that you just got out of a relationship with. It's a different face with the same dynamic, and that pattern will always repeat. So this is why you have to stop and look at you and your patterns and their patterns. You look at their patterns. I want to be really cautious here. You want to look at this from a data perspective because emotionally we want to point fingers at them at how fucked up they are, which is really I'm hurt and I'm angry. So my anger is the outward expression. It's a guard for the inward hurt that we're feeling. We have to get into that hurt. We actually have to feel it. And this is where you have to get tied into an attachment specialist, right? You didn't ignore the red flags because you're weak. You ignored them because of how it felt in the beginning. And that feeling in the beginning, that's what you're constantly striving to get back to. And what they're doing in this cycle is they're trauma bonding you to just enough to get your dopamine receptors, it's like cocaine, to think, oh, I'm just starting to get back that moment. And then they crash it again. There was connection, there was validation, there was intimacy. And for me, I hadn't been in a relationship for a while. So when that showed up, it hit hard. And on her side, there was something else happening. Closeness felt good until it didn't. And there was this push and pull that she started doing to me. A fearful avoidant dynamic or dismissive avoidant dynamic. Mine was a fearful avoidant leaning dismissive. I can explain what these are in other videos. I'm not going to explain it here, but just the word avoidant says enough. They avoid vulnerability when commitment and intimacy is something that becomes a norm in the relationship, which is very normal. And they can't handle it. It's too dangerous to them. Avoidants need safety, and their safety is in their own little shell. But they want connection, so they'll crack that shell and get that really quick high, that emotional high in the beginning of the relationship, where you're all cuddly, you're kissy, me and mine, we couldn't stop kissing for like 3 months. We were lip locked constantly. She could come in and connect and then back away. And then came to the hook, right? Now something happens inside of you that you don't even realize. You experience that high, then you lose it. Then you experience it again, then you lose it. So what do you start doing? You start to chase it to get that high back. It literally is an addiction. And we have to, in order to break it, we literally have to come up with boundaries inside of ourselves where we have to create these standards. We have to raise our standards. Basically, you're going to get tired of it. The dopamine, the rush, the high is becoming more exhausting. And the high isn't there anymore. And then you start to detach. So you chase it, not her. You're chasing the addiction, the feeling. And you start trying to get back to the version of her that existed in the beginning that gave you that high feeling. That feeling is great. It was genuine, but now it's becoming an addiction. But that version, it doesn't stay. And this is where I want you to be honest with yourself for a second. You weren't chasing her. You were chasing how she made you feel. And even afterwards, if you're a year out, if you're 6 months, a year out, you're still feeling it because that addiction was that strong. Why does it feel so real? This is the part that traps most people. Trauma bonding feels more real than real chemistry. Not because it is, but because it's unstable. The highs are really high, the lows are really low. Stability is boring. The brain isn't chasing connection, it's chasing relief, and that's exactly what you're chasing. And if you feel like that's what you're chasing, if you look at yourself, you'll start to see that you're not bonded to who she is. You're bonded to the high, the memory, the hope. You are trauma bonded, my friend. And the less you get, the more valuable it feels. And here's the flip on that. You are valuable all the time to her, so she doesn't value you. You make yourself so available that she can do whatever she wants. Unfortunately, it sucks. So let's give you the signs. Let's make this simple. If you feel addicted, replay the good moments and forget about the bad, or you justify the bad moments, feel anxious more than peaceful, struggle to walk away from that relationship or that thought, this is not chemistry, my friend. This is a trauma bond. And yes, I hated to admit it to myself, but I got trauma bonded to her. But I had to truly understand what a trauma bond was. Trauma bonding is caused by that intermittent breadcrumbing of that thing that made you feel real high in the beginning. That's why it's hard to break. And you're not just letting go of a person. You're breaking a loop, a chemical pattern, literally, dopamine in the brain. Your brain has learned this person equals relief. So when they're gone, withdrawal. And your mind will do everything it can to pull you back. So how do you break this? First, you have to break the cycle. Basically, get out. No contact. That is so hard in an addiction. If you don't, she will. If she hasn't already done it to you, she will do it. Eventually, that relationship will crash and burn. It's an absolute bona fide, guaranteed promise that that relationship will crash and one of you guys is going to end it. It happens far more from the avoidant. But if you are the anxious person, you've been able to walk away, you already took the biggest first step to your healing. But if they were the one that walked away, this is where you still have to work within you and realize they didn't love you. Excuse me. The way that they left you and the way they treated you and the way they breadcrumbed you, they did not love you. That's not love. It can't be if you. But I get it. It's so hard to see it inside because there's part of you that really needs that hit. And you would stay there steady. I know you would. As an anxious person, you would stay there with that person because that's who you are. You're mindful. You'll work with them. You're empathetic. You're reflective. But they are not. They can't. If you think about the relationship, this is where I had to beat myself against the wall to keep reminding myself that she never took ownership of the fractures that she did in the relationship. Your mind is saying, yeah, but maybe just one message. No, because one message, it starts all over again in your head. You're starting on this journey of breaking that addiction. Second, we need to stop playing a highlight reel. And that's really hard to do too, because even now, 8 months down the road, I'm still playing the highlight reel. But I'm much better at remembering the pain that she caused me, the fractures, the major fractures, and that she didn't come back to fix them. And when I broke up with her, when I tried to have a post-mortem conversation with her, and she handled it in a way where she was very guarded and in a way was, I hope you find what you're looking for, right? Makes you feel small. Kind of puts her on this pedestal herself. It's this very subtle subconscious thing when they do that. But you know what? I had to get past that too. I had to cry really, really hard. I cried the hardest then after that message when she said basically goodbye. We're not talking again. I couldn't get closure. That was the hardest point. I actually had to call a suicide hotline. Not that I was thinking suicide, but I was that upset. I needed someone to talk to. So unfortunately, you don't get to keep the highs without acknowledging the lows. You've got to acknowledge these lows. That will help you. What you want to do, and this is really hard for us as anxious people, anxious men, we don't want to put that woman down. Because if we do, then we feel guilty like we are going to ruin everything, but it's all ruined already. We need to paint the picture like it is and keep painting it. Find a coach who understands these attachment styles so that they can start to work with you and help you see it. It's going to take time, my friend, because this is deeper in you than you think. We need to separate who she is and how she made you feel, because those are not the same thing. The next thing is you have to rebuild your center, your standards, your self-respect. Standards, you hear boundaries, but it's not boundaries because boundaries can move. Standards are your new minimums that you will accept in a relationship. And that takes time. And that means that you have to reflect on what you did, right, in the relationship to enable her. And you have to look at what she did that was very hurtful and what you can't tolerate anymore. Because at some point, you allowed things that you normally wouldn't. So this is where everything started to change for me. I didn't lose the one, but that's the person I felt she was, right? I was just, oh, this is my life partner. I'm going to dive in. That was my focus. So I allowed all the red flags. I experienced something intense, something powerful. It was fun. We had some good sex. We did a lot of things. We had a lot of interests together. But it wasn't built on stability. It wasn't sustainable, and she was not safe. Your avoidant is going to say you don't make them feel safe, but the true lack of safety lays in them because you, my friend, the anxious person, you are very safe. For me, it wasn't real chemistry. If you're sitting here right now, missing her, feeling that pull, questioning yourself, I want you to hear this clearly. What you felt was real, but what it was built on was not healthy. And the strongest connection you will ever have is not the one that gives you the highest highs and the lowest lows. It's the one where you don't lose yourself. Trying to hold on to that relationship. Because the truth is, you're not trying to get her back. You're trying to get back how you felt with her when she chose you. And once you see that, once you really understand it, that anxiety you've been carrying starts to loosen because now you finally see it clearly. And when you can see it clearly, you can finally let go. My friend, if this video is helpful for you, give me a comment down below. Or if you know somebody who's in this crazy dynamic, they can't let go of their ex, send this video on to them so they can understand a trauma bond. And subscribe to the channel because I'm talking all about this kind of stuff to help you and so many other people who got caught up in these relationship dynamics that just destroy you. But they're your greatest ally if you use it as a learning thing, but we have to get through that pain. I'll talk to you in the next video.